Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 16, Episode 5, and when I tell you that we have quite a lot to discuss, because Miss Noella, I can officially say that I don't like you. I find Noella to be very desperate, very thirsty, her timeline doesn't make any sense, and it just seems like she's very disingenuous. But let me not jump ahead. Let's just dive right on into this recap because we don't have a minute to spare. So this episode starts off with Heather threatening Shannon. So we see Heather continuing this conversation by letting Shannon know that she will defend her family till the bitter end. She goes on to say, Shannon, I wasn't threatening you. I was making a promise. Like, do not come for my family again because it's going to be real bad for you. I was really screaming at Shannon's facial expression while this conversation was taking place because you could tell that Shannon wanted to laugh right in Heather's face, but she was like, you know what? I don't want to start anything else, so let me just sit here and be quiet. So Heather says, I really thought that we were all good, but you doing that was like a big F you to me. So Shannon's like, look, Heather, I don't know how many more times I can keep saying it, but I'm so sorry. That was a bad judgment call on my part. And again, I never meant to hurt you. Like, I would never go out of my way to hurt your feelings. Please forgive me. So now Heather goes on to say, well, I don't know if I trust you 100%, but I do forgive you. And Heather, I have to call BS on that because you don't forgive her. And just be honest with it. There's no need to lie because if you did forgive Shannon, you would have dropped it. But you kept going. It was like you were just determined to get Shannon to continue to apologize. Now, let me just say this, Heather. The reason why I know that you don't forgive her is because I'm similar. I have a very hard time forgiving people, and I do hold on to grudges. There, okay? You know one of my weaknesses. But baby, when I tell you, if I feel slighted, if somebody tries to wrong me, I'm holding on to it till the day that I die.
There we go. Thank you. And you're going to always get it again and again and again.
I wish I could just let things, bounce off my back and I don't think about it. But I'd be a liar if I said that I'm a forgiving person. I'm not. But the difference between me and Heather is the fact that with me, I'll say my piece, let you know that I want nothing else to do with you, and then that's it. Heather is one of those people where she doesn't forgive you, and she wants you to continue to apologize over and over and over again, and she's still not going to forgive you. So now Shannon apologizes yet again, and she says, Heather, I'm sorry, okay? I effed up. So now Heather says in her confessional that Shannon is not crying because she's truly sorry and she means it. She's just crying because she got caught. I was like, Heather, if we're going to be honest, you really should be mad at Gina because Gina does not know you that well to be relaying that kind of information to you at your own party. She was wrong for that. And I would be looking at Gina with a side eye because it shows that she can't keep her word. She made a promise to her good friend Shannon that she would not mention this. And the fact that she broke that promise and ran to you to tell her because she's so enamored and so infatuated by you because of the money and the stature that you have in the community, like, you don't think that that's a problem? I'm just confused as to why you have just completely forgiven Gina, but you want to rake Shannon over the coals. And then Heather's like, okay, I need you to do one more thing for me, and that's apologize to Terry. So Shannon's like, okay, that's fine, that's cool. So Heather says, wait right here, I'm gonna bring him out right now. Heather, you're really giving off that you enjoy punishing people and you were getting a kick out of making Shannon feel worse and worse. And that's not right. And while Shannon gets on my nerves and she's not a favorite of mine at all, I can always be objective and I can always see when something is too far. And you took it way too far. Shannon honestly should have cursed you out because don't you ever threaten me and then have the nerve to talk to me like a child and then you want to bring your husband into the mix so that I can apologize to him. So now Dr. Terry comes out and Shannon apologizes to Terry. And Terry's looking at her kind of skeptical. He looks like he's not going to accept her apology. And then he's like, okay, it's fine, Shannon. Thank you so much for apologizing. It's over and done with. Let's not talk about it anymore. And let's just enjoy the rest of this party and have a good time. So Heather and Shannon go back inside. It's time to eat. Of course, Shannon is a bit shaken up about what just took place, and she's telling her boyfriend what went down. So she's like, babe, you won't believe it. Heather was threatening me. So he's like, what? Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, that's not cool at all. So her boyfriend's pissed, and you could tell that he wanted to say something because he was like, when Shannon hurts, I hurt. So for somebody to sit up here and threaten my girl, like, we don't play that. So now we see Dr. Jen and Nicole at the bar, and Dr. Jen is telling Nicole all about her experiences with Noella. She's like, for some reason, Noella's always rude to me, she's very snotty to me, and I just don't understand why she's like that. So now Nicole's like, you want me to call her over so you guys can talk? So we see Nicole calling Noella over. She leaves to let them just have a one-on-one, and things go left immediately. So Dr. Jen starts off and she says, look, we've met a handful of times, and for some reason it seems like there's some tension between us, and I don't know why. Then she continues by saying, if I did something to offend you, like, let me know, because I'm just not understanding why we can't seem to get along. So we see Noella say in her confessional that she's met Dr. Jen like 2 times through their former mutual friend Bronwyn. And we all remember Bronwyn. She had 9 kids. Now she has a girlfriend, and her husband are still together. And I saw on the blogs that her and her husband are getting evicted from their home now. Like, they owe $45,000 in back rent. You see how these women come on this show and pretend like they have so much money. And I was always looking like, what exactly does her husband do? Because I just don't believe that he makes that kind of money to support a family of 11, and Bronwyn is laced in Gucci and gold, but I digress. Noella continues that Dr. Jen was way too familiar with her when they met, and how Dr. Jen was asking her for a selfie together, and she just found it to be very disturbing. So I'm like, but that's really funny that you say that it's disturbing, because you were on that same weirdo thirsty behavior too, sis, because the tea is that you were begging to be on this show. And you went on this little tour with Bronwyn where you met all the housewives of other franchises, and you were taking selfies with all of them. You and Dr. Jen are one and the same. So Noella says to Dr. Jen, and by the way, you posted this poorly lit selfie on Instagram 2 weeks ago, and then you tagged me in it. And I don't know why you would do that, because I already work exclusively with a med spa. So I had to report that picture and get Instagram to take it down because you tagged me in that picture. I was like, girl, it is not that deep. You can always untag yourself if you do not want to be in that picture. So Dr. Jen is like, wait, what did you just say? Like, a poorly lit selfie? So now Noella continues to insult Dr. Jen, and she says that she's thirsty. Dr. Jen is livid at this point, and she's like, thirsty? Me? Are you kidding me? Like, when I saw you the last time, you were saying that Tom Ford is your god. So now Noella walks away, and she's like, girl, like, bye. Go be relevant elsewhere. I was really screaming because it really shows you how delusional Noella is. For her, of all people, to call anybody thirsty or desperate, that's hilarious. I mean, it doesn't get any more desperate than Noella. I don't see what the producers saw in Noella other than an interesting storyline because her life is falling apart and she's broke. But other than that, I mean, what does she really give? Because I can assure you, we would all be bored to tears if she did not have this divorce going on and this sob story about how her credit cards have been cut off. I don't care for her. I don't think that she's that interesting. I don't like her personality. Like I keep saying, she seems very disingenuous, very phony to me. So I would not want her back for season 17. Just my opinion. And while Dr. Jen isn't growing on me, and I find her to be quite boring as well, and it does appear that she also used Bronwyn to get on this show, I will say that I found it to be very rude of Noella to dismiss her like that. Dr. Jen just wanted to know, look, do we have a problem? What is the problem? If I offended you in any way, please let me know so that we can at least be cordial and, get along. So Heather saw the whole thing play out and she runs over to see if Dr. Jen is okay. So Dr. Jen is telling her what happened and Heather's like, wait, what? Like, I am so confused right now. What is this about some poorly lit selfie? Like, why would she say that? And what does that have to do with anything? So Dr. Jen is like, look, girl, she told me that I had tagged her in some picture and how she works exclusively with this other med spa. So I was being disrespectful to her and how she also called me thirsty. So Heather's like, I'm still confused about this whole entire fight. But I will say that I think that Noella is going through a very hard time. And because of that, she's lashing out at everybody. Then Heather reveals that she was told that Noella had called her a fake bitch. So she's like, I'm just choosing to let it go and just say that, she's going through a hard time and she's just taking it out on everybody. So while Dr. Jen and Heather are talking, Noella sees them and she goes back over to confront Dr. Jen once again. So she calls Dr. Jen a rude little girl and she keeps calling her thirsty. So now they start getting loud and Heather and Shannon try to diffuse the situation. They're like, okay, guys, not now, not tonight. Let's not ruin another party. Like, this is all about Shane. Let's just have fun. Just stop it. So now we see everybody sitting down to eat. So we see that Heather, Gina, Shannon, and Noella are all at the same table together. And it's a bit of tension because Heather is visibly ignoring Shannon, and Shannon can feel it. So Shannon is whispering to Noella how Heather's ignoring her, and Noella's like, girl, it's okay. You've already apologized. Like, it is what it is. You're going to be fine. Don't even worry about it. Just have fun. So then we see Heather and Gina talking because they're right next to each other. So Heather's like, Gina, have you ever been to the races before? Because I have 2 additional tickets and I would love for you and Travis to be our guests. So of course, Shannon and Noella can hear Heather inviting Gina and not them. And Shannon says in her confessional how that's poor etiquette to invite somebody to some super exclusive event in front of other people. And Heather, for you to be a woman all about social graces, etiquette, and manners, then you know better. Regardless of whether you and Shannon are friends or not, that wasn't poor taste to do that. You could have easily pulled Gina to the side and invited her in private. But to do that in front of everybody, that was rude. And I just expect more from you, sis, especially when you pride yourself on being super prim and proper. Shannon goes on to say how it's evident that she's on Heather's blackballed list and she probably won't be getting another invitation to anything that Heather has. Shannon, do me a favor. I want you to be okay with the fact that Heather might never like you. Make peace with it, because I would not give anybody the satisfaction of them even seeing that I'm bothered, that they're trying to exclude me. That is one thing that I can do very well. I'll be damned if I let an enemy see me sweat. It's just not going to happen. I'm very good at ignoring people and icing people out if I have to. So I'd be making Heather feel crazy because you're not going to sit up here and try to play me and try to get me to grovel and beg you for a friendship. That's not happening. My self-esteem and my pride are way too high for that. Shannon, you have a cute coin too. You don't need her invitation. You too can go to the races and sit in the winner's circle and sit in the VIP box as well, all right? You're not doing too badly over there. So again, stop being pressed over Heather and move on. Now we see Emily stand up and make a speech, and she's congratulating her husband for finally passing the bar exam. And then she says that she is so lucky to have found him and she hit the jackpot having him as a husband. I said, Emily, what we won't do is lie. And thank God I wasn't at this party because I would have fallen over laughing at a bold-faced lie like that.
You know what? It's too much.
I don't know how many more times I can keep saying it, but I don't see any chemistry. I don't see any connection. I don't see any physical, sexual attraction between Shane and Emily, especially on Shane's part. Then we end the scene with all the ladies dancing with the belly dancers, and it seems like everybody is having a good time. So now we jump over to the next scene with Shannon, and she and her daughters and her oldest daughter's boyfriend are having a really nice, elegant lunch with Shannon's dad. Now, Shannon's dad still thinks that he's got it. I remember when Miss Kelly died, and I can't stand Kelly, thank God she was fired. But anyhow, I remember when Kelly kept calling her dad a big dick daddy. But yeah, her dad is still zipping it and zooing it at 92 years old, all right? Like, he still has his blazers on, and he thinks that he is still a man about town. So, child, Shannon's father starts telling all of them old stories about when he was living the high life in Bel Air. So he's like, yeah, girls, I used to hang out with Dean Martin, and the whole table is quiet. Shannon's daughters are looking like, who? I was screaming. Shannon's like, Dad, I don't know how to say this, but they're 17 and 19 years old. These kids don't know anything about Dean Martin. So her dad's like, really? You girls have never heard of Frank Sinatra or the Rat Pack? And they're like, no. When I tell you that Shannon's dad looked so deflated when they were like, Grandpa, we don't know who you're talking about. So now the conversation changes gears, and Shannon's dad brings up how her twins are going to be going to college in a few years. And he says, well, that'll be good because once you guys are out the house, then your mom might actually want to spend some time with me since I only live a mile away. So now Shannon gets teary-eyed and she's like, Dad, like, don't say that. Like, you know, I do want to spend time with you. So Shannon says in her confessional that while that makes her sad when her dad says things like that, she also didn't see him when she was little. She says that her dad had an office in LA and they lived in, I don't know if she said Rancho San Jose, but she says that they lived there, he lived in LA, and she only saw her dad on the weekends, and that was it. And the picture that they showed of Shannon and her father when she was like 17, Shannon looked so pretty in that picture. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, Shannon was out there breaking some necks and turning a few heads. I see you, girl. So I got the impression that Shannon is still trying to punish her father because he wasn't there when she was younger. And I can understand that. And I also got the impression that her father was probably a cheater because if you're in LA 5 days out the week and you only come and see your wife and your kids on the weekends, it's apparent that there's something else besides work going on. You're not going 5 days out the week without. I'm just saying. The fact that Shannon's dad was rich too, stop it. I also get the impression that Shannon's dad probably feels a lot of guilt and he's trying to make up for lost time, but he's now trying to guilt his daughter into spending time with him. But again, you can't be upset if your daughter still is harboring some anger that you weren't around. Now we hop on over to a short scene with Heather. She's at home and her and Terry are talking about the race tomorrow. She's super excited. She's like, hey babe, I invited Gina and her boyfriend Travis. And then Heather goes on to say how much she just loves Gina and how they connected because they're both from New York. I honestly think that Heather likes Gina a lot because Gina worships the ground that she walks on. That's just my personal opinion. So anyhow, we see Heather going into all of her kids' rooms and she's going over their schedules before school starts. And then we see her go into her oldest daughter's room, Max. So Max is like, hey mom, I'm going over the guest list for my book launch party, and she's super excited. We find out that Max is launching her own book, and she says that it's an advice book for teenagers and parents. Then we see Max say that coming out as bisexual to Heather was pretty easy because Heather is super supportive and they have a very close relationship. I like the relationship that Heather has with her family. You can tell that her kids feel super comfortable coming to her about anything, and she's always going to be supportive and receptive. And I think that's really cool that Max is able to launch her own book and give advice to any teenager if they're going through anything, especially about sexuality or just, trying to find themselves. And the fact that it's also an advice book for parents, like, that's really cool. So good for Max. And it's always so funny seeing how much all these housewives kids have grown. Like, I remember when Heather first joined the show, they were so small and now they're 18. Like, time truly flies. Now we pivot over to a short scene with Shannon and Noella. They're both at Noella's Reiki specialist. I don't know if I said it right. I feel like I always butcher that. I don't know why. But they're both there. And Noella says how much she loves her specialist, how, she's booked for like months on end. And when she goes there, she just always feels a lot better. So my whole thing was, how can you afford these sessions, sis, when you were just saying that your husband has cut off all the cards? Like, how are you surviving? Girl, you better buy a yoga mat and meditate at home for free. So while Shannon and Noella are in the waiting room, they start discussing the party and how Heather spoke to Shannon. So Noella starts encouraging Shannon, and she says, look, Heather is not better than you. She's not better than anybody. And on top of that, it's like, who is she? Like, we are not her court. Then Noella goes on to say that Heather is very controlling and manipulative, and that's not cool. Now I said, I have to get you together yet again, Noella. That's very two-faced of you to now badmouth Heather. You were just kissing Heather's ass, saying how much you loved her. Heather brought you a gift, okay? You were sitting up there giving her daughter Max a big hug and kiss, talking about, oh yeah, girl, I'm bisexual too. I just love you so much. So now you want to talk all this mess about Heather. That's not cool. I don't like that. And if you have a problem with Heather, then tell her the same way that you told Dr. Jen. So now it's time for their session, and Shannon goes first. So the specialist comes out, and she starts asking Shannon all these questions, like, are you having some kid problems? Like, what's going on? Because you seem kind of tense. So now Shannon starts crying immediately, and the specialist is like, good, like, all the sadness is coming out of your body, like, keep going, just let it out. So we see Shannon say in her confessional that she just has a big fear of not being able to provide for her kids, and she also feels like she's failed them. I said, Shannon, you might be a bit frantic and a bit nutty, but I feel like you're doing a great job with your girls. And how could you feel that way when your ex-husband did you and your girls dirty? He was out there cheating on you, not coming home, treating you like crap. So how can you place the blame on yourself? If anything, your daughters probably hold a lot of resentment towards their dad, as they should. I would not be beating myself up over mistakes and failings that my ex-spouse did. Absolutely not. Now we jump on over to Dr. Jen having a little girls' night with Gina, Nicole, and Emily. Dr. Jen says that it's kind of hard to make friends as you get older, and she says that while she's close to her staff at her med spa, she realizes that they don't really like her like that. They just like her because she's the boss. So they all sit down to have some wine and cheese and just gossip and catch up. And when I tell you that Nicole was doing the absolute most because she brought the cheese in her Louis Vuitton suitcase, I said, girl, the dramatics of it all. I said, you brought that much cheese that you had to do all that? So, of course, the conversation turns to Emily's party for Shane and Noella and her behavior. Emily says that she's confused by Noella, and Dr. Jen says, girl, me too. She was at your party calling me ugly and irrelevant. So Gina and Emily are like, wait, what? She called you ugly? Like, when? When was this? So Dr. Jen is like, yeah, she was also calling me thirsty and what have you. But it's really funny because in the year that I've known her, every time I see her, her stories keep changing. One day she's married, the next day she's not, then she's married, then she's not. Like, what's the deal? So Dr. Jen expresses that she doesn't believe that Noella is married. So Emily interjects and says, well, he did serve her divorce papers, so they definitely are legally married. So Dr. Jen says, look, when I first met Noella, she told me that they had had a wedding ceremony, but they still weren't married because they were waiting for him to get divorced from his first wife. So if you've been reading the blogs, then you know that Noella and James were together for 6 years, and it was a very tumultuous relationship because he was still married to his then wife. Noella was a mistress for 6 years. But I did hear that they had multiple ceremonies throughout the years. But it was just legal in 2020. So now Emily says in her confessional that she thinks that Dr. Jen is trying to sway all their opinions about Noella because she doesn't like her. Now, Emily, if you had half a brain, then you could see that Noella is up to no good and that something's not right about her. Are you only trying to stick by Noella's side because you think that she has this great storyline and a friendship with her could carry you another few seasons? Is that what it is? Because we know that these ladies love to align themselves with who they feel is going to carry the show. Emily does agree that Noella cannot treat people the way she's treating them and that she needs to seek some therapy. So Dr. Jen is like, look, she's on a destructive path, and I think she needs a lot more than therapy because something ain't right. I agree with Dr. Jen that she is on a very destructive path. I think that Noella is a weirdo. I'm not going to mince words about it, but I think that something just isn't right with her. I think that she's addicted to the fame and the attention now because her antics, going back and forth with her ex-husband on Instagram, she's looking crazy. So we jump on over to the big day. It's the horse races at the Del Mar racetrack. And when I tell you, Heather was dressed to the nines. She's in Chanel. Her and Terry's good friends are there. And then we see Miss Gina and Travis.
Ladies, may we get a word?
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around. With your broke ass.
So, child, Gina shows up in this dress, and I didn't think that that dress was flattering at all. I said, Heather, of all of the wives that you could have invited, and you picked Gina, but okay. Also, you are there to not only drink and have a good time, but you're also there to bet on the horses. We already know that between Gina and her boyfriend, they probably couldn't bet anything more than $50. I was just shaking my head the whole time, like, why is Gina there? We see Gina joke around in her confessional how she has champagne tastes on a beer budget. I said, girl, that's putting it nicely. Again, I just want to know who at Bravo said, let's have Gina on Real Housewives. I'm still confused. Did she slip somebody a $20 bill under the door? Like, I just don't understand what they saw because I don't see it. And then she's also not living the luxurious lifestyle, which is one of the main factors on getting on the show. But I digress. So they're in one of the suites, the champagne is flowing. Heather and Terry are joking around about which horse they're going to bet on. Terry says that if they win on this particular horse, then they're going to buy a jet. Gina is just giddy like a schoolgirl. She's just like, I just want more days like this. I said, I'm sure you do. While everybody's having a great time, Gina quietly brings up the drama with Noella. So Gina says, I don't know what Noella's issue with you is, because she was telling me the other day that I should be careful hanging around you. So Heather says, you know, I'm not sure what her issue is, and I think it might be because she has a lot going on in her life that she's just lashing out on everybody. Then Heather says that she was told the same thing by other people, that Noella was going around saying that she can't be trusted, and on top of that, that she's a fake bitch. So Heather's like, I'm just really confused because I thought that we were cool. We hit it off in the beginning, and she also connected with my daughter Max. Then Heather says that she invited Noella to her book launch party, but now she's like, I don't know if I should rescind the invitation because I'm not trying to have somebody who doesn't like me up in my house. So they stop talking about Noella, the races start, and we find out that Terry has put all of the money on horse number 6. So at first, horse number 6 is all the way behind. So Heather's like, oh my gosh, like don't tell me you picked a loser. But baby, it turns out that horse number 6 goes straight to the front and their horse wins. So they're like, oh my gosh, here's a toast to our new jet.
We drinking strawberry and champagne. Hold on, let me get strawberry. Let me get strawberry. I love it. Strawberry mature.
So we can all assume that Terry and Heather bet quite a lot of money on that horse. And I said, Heather, I hope you broke off Gina a few dollars because Lord knows she needs it. But again, I digress. So now we get to the last scene of the episode, and it's Noella. She's at home and Emily comes over. So of course, Noella is being super dramatic and she's like, Emily, I lost my voice. I can't talk. I'm gonna whisper from here on out. And I just find Noella to be very phony. I feel like she's doing all these extra dramatics for attention. And I get the impression that Noella wants people to feel sorry for her. Like, I think that she gets enjoyment out of people pitying her. So Noella's whispering and crying about how she still loves James, but she would be a fool to take him back. I'm like, girl, he's all the way in Puerto Rico with another woman. He is not thinking about you. So what are you talking about? You'd be a fool to take him back. He doesn't want you. You have no choice but to move on. Then she tells Emily how James served her divorce papers again, but this time with flowers. So Emily's like, oh my gosh, he did what? She's like, yeah, girl. The process server came to the house with flowers, and then he slapped me with divorce papers. She says that while she was served divorce papers the first time, it technically did not count because her mom opened the door. So because of that, they had a flower guy come to the house and serve her because they knew that if she saw the flowers, she would open the door. So now Emily's asking how long she and James have been together, and Noella says, we've been together for a very long time, but we just got married in 2020, so it's only been a year. So of course, Emily has to run and tell what Dr. Jen was saying the other night, and she's like, well, I have to be honest with you. Dr. Jen does not believe that you're married, and she was telling us a whole bunch of stuff. So now Noella says, I'm not surprised because Dr. Jen doesn't have a heart. Then she keeps calling Dr. Jen thirsty, and she's like, you know what, whatever. So now they go outside to throw the flowers out, and that's where the episode ends. Now let me just say, I'm already growing tired of Noella and this whole divorce drama. 5 episodes in, and I'm already like, girl, really? Can you come up with something else? Like, I don't want this to be the main focus all season long. I think that Noella already knew that she and her husband were on the brink of divorce. I don't think that she was blindsided. I think that that's the reason why she was so desperate to get on this show, because she already knew he was going to leave her and leave her penniless. But y'all, let me know what you guys thought about the episode. How do you feel about Noella? Are you feeling the same way that I do? Because I know I'm not alone in this. But again, thank you all for watching my recap. I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.